Okay, welcome back to the Krown podcast. Today we have a very special guest, a very special friend actually as well, someone who I've known for, I think, since maybe 2018 or 2019.
About that.
FiboSwanny is how I know him. He goes by Brian or Swanny, and I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Swanny now, and he is going, and please tell your story to the audience here.
Yeah. Thanks, Krown, for having me on. I'm going to give a quick resume. I've been in the commodity space for about 20 years. I grew up outside of Northwest Indiana, right outside of Chicago. And one of the things I always kind of looked at was all that craziness that was going on in the pits out there in the exchanges. There was the CME and the Board of Trade. Mm-hmm. And I kind of watched that. I'm like, you know what? That looks really cool. Just like when I was a kid, I was just like, so I went to school for, got a finance degree. Mm-hmm. And I always wanted to do that. I always wanted to trade. So I lucked out. I moved down here to Kentucky and got a job with a cattle trader. And I traded I traded cattle and grains for about 7 years. And it was awesome because I fell into this job where it was a sink or swim. It was like, hey, welcome aboard, right. Learn to trade. You know what I mean? And difficult, what it was a cattle broker, and it was the largest cattle broker in the nation. And they always had 100,000 head of cattle that I had to manage the risk on. So I used the futures and options market to manage that risk, the break evens and all that. So when I started getting involved in it, it was the grain market that I was like, you know what? There's a lot of unique patterns going on in the markets and things like that. And that's what got me into TA. And then I kind of really dove in, went down the rabbit hole, all that kind of stuff. And from that point, I did that for about 6 or 7 years. I traded, I never had a floor license at the CME. But what I did was I was right on that next level. Where there's the phones that were right around the the pits.
Yeah. Back in the days when there was phones.
Oh, dude, it was so much fun. I would just sit there and just watch the old guys just rip people apart in the pit. It was just so much fun. I mean, and you could see these guys just throwing bids and asks at people, and people were buying the market nowhere near the market. I mean, the manipulation that was going on in the pits was just a beautiful thing.
It was different.
It was a different time. But I'm glad I did it. It was fun, and from that point, I dove down into TA. Started a hedge fund with 2 other guys for about 2 or 3 years.
Oh wow!
I did that for a little bit, but it was just so time consuming, and I was starting a family and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, screw that. So I sold my portion and really dove down. And now, since that point, I did that for about 7 years. Then I went into the energy side, and I've been in the energy space for 17 years now. And what I do there, which I love my job because I get to do all the TA and everything that I do. And I work with maybe 50 commodities all over the world. And I'm working mainly with guys that are hedging any type of fuel or, that they need help in the markets, when to buy, when to sell. I need to buy tomorrow. Do I do it? Do I wait? Do I do this? All that kind of stuff. So, so I'm doing that also. And I love it. And that's what I do during the day. And one thing that I noticed was, way back in what maybe 16, 17 is when I started in the crypto space. And I was like, you know what? I've been doing this for so long, and I really want to share my expertise with others. And that's really what I'm kind of doing in here in the crypto space, is to kind of put myself out there and kind of help people. I kind of created a tool that people can use, that kind of thing, where it's not so much that they can just take it and run with it, but I really want to show them how Fibonacci can be used as a tool along with whatever strategies they're putting together. So I'm kind of like a person on their team, kind of helping them along. It's not like, just don't mimic me and everything that I do and all that kind of stuff. Because I'm not a signal shop. I'm more of along the lines of here's some tools and how to use them and how to better. You what now?
Teach a man to fish.
Exactly.
The abilities.
Yeah, and that's what I've been kind of doing over the last few years, is just kind of moonlighting behind the scenes and just helping people out where I can, and that's really where I'm at.
That is, man, I have so many things to go with that. But first and foremost, I want to let people know right now, check out FiboSwanny on Twitter. It is exactly that, FiboSwanny. He uploads charts very frequently. Really, really good resource. And of course, he'll plug his own stuff a little bit later as well. But I want to start off with this because I think this would be really interesting to a lot of the younger people who are tuning into this. You said that you got a degree in finance, actually. Do you feel like that's necessary, or do you feel like that helped you anyway, or what would you have done with that?
That's a good question.
Mhm.
If you really want to get into what we do for a
Mhm.
living, you probably really don't need a finance degree. I think the finance degree helped me get into that first cattle trading job.
Right.
Without it, I probably wouldn't have landed that position. Uh,
Mhm.
However, if you really want to get into just trading and learning that, you probably don't need a finance degree.
Yeah.
Another thing that I did was I sat there's a CMT exam, and I took the CFTE exam, which is the
Yeah.
Chartered Financial Technician. I actually took that just to get a little bit more, because since I work with corporate clients in the energy world, just make me look a little bit more pizzazz, that kind of thing.
Right on.
So I took that exam. So I would almost say, learn more about how to um, trade, but I'm more of a read psychology books when it comes to trading than actually
I'm the
reading
same
trading
way,
books.
actually. Yeah.
So I don't think you need a finance degree to do it. But if there's something you want to land in like the corporate space, then yeah, you probably would need it.
Yeah, that's what I tell people too, because it's a very common question with, people are going through college right now. People will say like, "Hey, how did you get into, my firm?" I was in Cutler Group. It's like, then they do care if they're going to hire you straight up, but if you're trading your
Yeah.
own money, then you kind of just need to know what you need to know.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
And I'm just kind of dying to ask as well, when you were around the CME, how many people were on the floor around that time? Like, it must have been
Uh,
super busy, huh?
oh, a ton. It was weird because since I didn't have a floor license, I wasn't even
Yeah.
allowed to step on the pit when it
Oh,
was
wow.
actually
Okay.
live. It was crazy. Like the
Yeah.
security was nuts.
Yeah.
Um, uh, the way it was it was kind of tiered. Like they had like the different levels in the
Mhm.
pit, and then
Right.
basically the way they had it was the way the people would stand in there is they would trade the different months, like
Oh, wow. Okay.
live cattle was like over
Yeah.
here, the feeder cattle right here, and then the guys would set up based on March futures or whatever the prompt month was or whatever.
Yeah.
But during the time, I would say I don't know, there's probably 30, 40 people in the pit at one time.
Jesus.
But then it was kind of fun because if you walked over to the Euro dollar pit,
Right.
oh my gosh, you talk about like watching soccer games. Screw that. Go go to the Euro dollar pit and just sit up in the stands and watch those guys. That's like that's watching a sport
That's
right
really
there.
funny you mentioned that, man. So when I was in Chicago, we were stationed above SIBO, actually was where our office was for Cutler Group.
Okay.
Anyways, people would always talk about, because we couldn't get down onto the floor. Like, I asked our regional manager, "Hey, can you take me down?" He's like, "No, I can't, I actually cannot." But people would always talk about how the Eurodollar pit was like the place, and it was so loud and obnoxious and
Yeah.
just crazy, man. It's exactly what you picture, if you've seen the movie, probably like Trading Places and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Kind of an
It's
old timer movie now, but that's what we were,
yeah,
that's what I
yeah, it
watched as a
is.
kid.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, you watch a movie like that and you see those people throwing paper and all that.
Yeah,
It's absolutely legit. I mean, that's really what
right.
goes on in there.
That's
I
what
mean,
the
I've seen fights. I've
yeah.
seen people
Oh
fighting.
yeah.
I've seen like
I
it's
was
it's
actually gonna
it's where it
ask you. I
was.
don't mean to put you on the spot with a story, but if you have a floor story or just something around there, I'm sure people would love to hear that as well. Is anything at the top of
Um,
your minds?
one thing that really strikes me is they
Okay.
actually have. This isn't really something that happens in the pit, but
Mm.
when you were there, they have like this chart that they put out, and they actually write violations on them, and and you get fined for so many different things. And it was funny because
Yeah.
when you walk off the elevator, there's this thing up on the wall, and it has like names of people getting like what they did and what in violations. It was freaking hilarious. And I mean, people like exposing themselves and it just like crazy stuff. I mean, it's a viper pit, man. It was
Jesus.
it is a different world. I mean, it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, it's all online nowadays. For
Yeah,
anyone
it's
who's wondering, like,
it's
this
all
is long
electronic.
gone, pretty much.
Yeah, electronic was just starting to come in when I was doing it, and you'd see like the little ticker tape coming out, and people were ripping it off, and they would just take the orders in.
What years were you on, by the way?
I was there in early '90s.
Oh wow, so you really got like the tail end of it.
Yeah, it was right at the end. Yeah. It was. So that's why I said I'm glad I got to experience it before it started to go away. But like the cattle and hog pits were pretty much some of the last ones to go away. I mean, they were there for a while.
Wow.
So, but I just remember seeing that sign and just like, oh my gosh, the things that people would do. Because I mean, these traders, I mean, they look like they're 100 years old and they're only 30. You know what I mean? And everything would get done at like the cattle pit would be done at like 1 o'clock, 1:15, something like that. I can't remember exactly, but people would just go drink and just completely get drunk off their ass, and they come back and they're trading again.
And by the way, I'm pretty sure it's right next to Ceres. Was that around when you were there?
Yeah.
Ceres. And this place is known. It's a bar that's literally right next to the damn exchange, and it's known for just loading up drinks to the max. It actually, when I moved over to Chicago, my regional manager took me there to kind of like break the ice and get to know me and everything. It was I just remember that. Anyways, okay, I think something that would be really, really interesting for not just myself but also everyone listening would also be your thoughts on the market right now with regarding Bitcoin, kind of where we're at. I saw that you posted a chart. You basically called the low thus far, and it's been a pretty damn good insight. So I'm curious what you're thinking right now.
Yeah. I can show a chart if you want me to.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and share your screen.
Yeah. I am disabled. Not that I can't walk, but I need to be able to share screen.
Okay, let me see. This must be a setting somewhere here. Oh man. Okay. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Okay. Here we go. Try now.
Yep. Yeah, let me get it on here. All right. There we go.
Lovely.
So could you see my screen?
Yep.
And the cursor's moving and all that? All right, cool.
Yes, sir.
All right, sweet. One of the things I mean, everybody calls me FiboSwanny because one of the things I really have dove down and really studied was Fibonacci and really different ways of using it. Because some of the things like I'm trying to write a book and all that kind of stuff about how to do it and all that kind of stuff. But one thing that I do is, and this is one of the things I do for my Patreon people and those kind of things is, I basically take the RSI and I break them down into bearish and bullish zones.
Right.
So I do some historical analysis and Fibonacci analysis and really grab the best fit lines to figure out where the bull and bear zones are. So you see down here in the RSI, I got the bull zones green and the bear zones red. And those are our main thresholds that I call them. I call them Fibonacci thresholds. And when they dip into different areas, that's your initial buy or initial sell, depending on which direction you're going.
Okay.
And I'll touch on a couple time frames, but here in the 4 hour, what I'm looking at here is down in here, we broke into the bull zone right here. And what I do is I set a threshold right here at this point. You can see this vertical line.
Okay.
And what I would do is I would set that as your buy signal to get back into the market. And then what I also do is I look back at some at the ADX and some crossovers here on the directional index lines.
Yes.
When that crosses over and it gets that first positive period over period change, which we're looking at the 4 hours, so it doesn't take that long to get a positive change. That's where I start my Fibonacci level. So I actually start Fibonacci levels at a little bit different times than what other people would look at. Because a lot of times you'll get, everybody asks about Fibonacci being, there's two things: self-fulfilling prophecy of all the different 61.8% that everybody and their brother are looking at.
Yeah.
But if you really take your time and you get down and deep and do some analysis, you're going to find some patterns that people don't see on the surface.
Yeah.
And that's really
extremely.
Yeah. So what I do is I start my Fibonacci from there, because that to me is where the psychology change in the market for me is. And that's what I really am trying to measure when I use the Fibonacci levels is where's that Fibonacci, where's that psychology change? So I start there. And then what I would normally do is this is all into the future up in here, but just say it broke right into this point. I would move the fibs up to this level, and the 38.2 is what I call the shallow fib. And that's the level that when it dips down into that level, once we're in the bull zone, any dips to the 38.2 is a buy.
You're buying.
So first your initial buy is the threshold. So you're going to buy right away on the break. And then as prices go up here, you keep moving the fibs up to whatever high is and it retraces. So this didn't make a buy right here. So it's basically telling you to hold the long that you're at. And then you move to the upside and then you do the same thing and it works up to this point right here. So my first targets come from also Fibonacci, but I also use them from previous thresholds to figure out where the extensions are. And the extensions are, I like the 127 to 141 range.
Yes.
And that's the range I would take my first target or my first profit. So what I would do is you would buy in here on this break. We would have sold right here once we got into this level right in here. And then on the dip, actually it dipped down a little bit right here, but as it went up to the next high and you move the fibs up, it dips down into the shallow fib level at the 38.2% here at 37.1. And that would be a buy. So you get back long again. So you would have been long, you would have profited, you would have taken long again and work your way up to the upside. So the interesting thing is you're long right now. And this is where we're at the moment. And things are starting to break down a little bit. But what happens is this 127 to 141 is now, this 127 is now your support, your first support. That should hold, and we're starting to find some buying interest right in here as it wicks through that point. So right now we're looking at this as the next level, and popping up into what I would say the second target is, which is the another extension that I use based on old thresholds out here in this range as our second target. So that's going to be my next sale. Or sale.
My eyes are seeing it properly. That's about $44,000, which is actually kind of where I'm looking towards as well.
Yeah, it's right at just above 44. It could be anywhere in this range, but
this is so fucking good. But it's just so interesting to me that one of the things that I strongly believe about trading and technical analysis, if that's going to be your edge, is that good technical analysis should usually come to about the same conclusion. And I'm seeing the exact same things that I'm seeing here, but you're coming at this from such a different and more nuanced Fibonacci angle. This is really interesting to me. But go ahead, man. I don't mean.
Yeah. This is something that I been looking at for years, and I finally started to polish it. And I got to the point where I'm like, all right, I'm going to start sharing this for people, and they can take it, and I want them to take it and rip it apart and learn more from it and go from it and learn more. You know what I mean? So what I'm doing now is. I would buy if we went down to the shallow fib at 37.3. Yeah. If it actually went down there, I'd actually buy more as it works down here. But another thing is if you start to break down, and this actually breaks the barrier down here in the bull zone and breaks down back into the bear zone. That's the sell to get back out. Gotcha. And then you flip to the other side and you would start working the short side. But right now the shallow fib and the bull zone are your support points to where you would actually buy. But right now you should be long at about 37 or so. Yeah. With a 44 target on the way up. So that's why I marked that kind of the second target. So that's where I'm at there.
I'm looking at something very similar right now. I'm about 37. 37.5 is what I'm looking towards. But
yeah. So right now on the near term, on the 4 hour, I'm still looking at that 44 as possibility. But the interesting thing is when you jump out into a further time frame, because all my stuff comes up from the 4 hour, 12 hour, and daily is where a lot of my signals come from. Gotcha. So I'm not a scalper. I'm more of a trend trader, it's kind of swing trader. Okay. And so a lot of my stuff are a little bit more longer term holds, possibly. I mean, longer term as in, maybe a week or 2 weeks or, whatever. But then when you jump out to the daily, I have some of the fibs on here from from the daily here, and it's the same kind of thing. I went back and found the best fit zones.
Okay.
And we were in the bear zone here for a while, and then we finally broke back up into the bull zone here, right here where I started a threshold. But one of the things, or one of the guidelines or rules in my theory is there's this previous threshold, because this is the bearish threshold right here, and then we were in this consolidation. And there's three things with my method. One is, once the bull zone hits, once you get the crossover on the ADX and you get the threshold set, you have to trade back above the previous 38.2% is that last leg. And right now that 40,000 level is where that resistance is coming from, right here.
Right.
And until we get three settles, I call it filtering.
Okay.
Whenever I do it, trying to break support or resistance, I don't do it on the first wick or anything like that. I actually look for three consecutive actual settles of whatever time frame you're looking at. So if we get three consecutive daily settles above 40.8, then I'm gangbusters. I'm bullish as all get out.
Yeah.
But right now we're still in this range where it kind of tops out and hits some resistance on the upside here. So
right.
So two out of the three things have happened on the daily. So to me, we're not out of the woods yet, but I do like the action here to where we're back in the bull zone, and my shallow fib is set here. I wouldn't do really any buying just yet on the daily. That's why I'm using the 4 hour right now to keep the buying going for now. But and it's all about risk management on how much you put on these. I usually put, each level is a percent buy, and then on the daily, if this breaks in, this will be a little bit more higher percentage when it comes to going long, those kind of things. So I'm kind of waiting on that. But right now the setup's pretty good. Some of my other stuff, the weekly threshold right now is where the threshold was back here. The 61.8% level is right there at 29.5. And that was where my buy was when I was saying that the low would kind of hold right there.
Right.
Because the range that we're in at the moment still has not broken out of the zones that I've created from looking at it historically. So I like it. I like the setup. I think we're going to really rock it out of here. It's not gangbusters just yet, but I'm pretty hopeful on how things are setting up. Looking at the monthly, this is the one that I've been following for a long time. Yeah. I actually called this low in June, 10 months in advance.
That's what I was referencing earlier.
Yeah.
That tweet very specifically.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome, to be honest. No, it was sweet. But the thing is that this 28.8 happened basically in June, and so far when that came down and tested, it held, which was just an awesome sign for me and what I look at. When it comes to all the different fib levels and everything that I look at. I like how this price action is happening. Like I said, we're not out of the woods yet. This definitely could break down, but I like where we're sitting. I do Elliott wave analysis. I do not trade off Elliott wave. Yeah. I use it as a guideline because that's another exam I took and got licensed and all that kind of crap, all that stuff. But the wave analysis that I'm at right here, one of the things I was looking at was when you look back here on the monthly at this 31, ultimately the 27 is what had to hold, but this 31 area is the one I've been watching here on this. This is off my fib theory. This one's just the high and low. But then when you look at this 29.5, this 31, and you're looking at these levels, the 28.8, all that range. When I was looking at the wave analysis, there's a couple of things. I was looking for this wave 4 correction right here. The primary trend is the circles here. The wave 4 of one lesser degree is usually where the wave 4 corrects to, and it matches up with this wave 4 here. And then of course it had a full retracement off of this Fibonacci break right here, and we've been in this range. But we're back up here in hitting this resistance here, so that's why we're not out of the woods just yet. But I'd really like to break above this and get this thing going and get this wave 5. So right now, if this holds, this June low holds, I'm looking at 85 by December. based off this based off this pattern. But we'll see how it goes. But I mean, the way the wave pattern is kind of working out, this this wave 2 to wave 3, the wave 2 right here was a flat pattern, so you consolidated, and then this wave 4 right here was a quick ABC zigzag pattern right here.
Mm-hmm.
So they alternate, which is good. And like a lot of the rules and stuff have been kind of working pretty well on this. But like I said, I don't trade off of this. I use it as a guide. And if this is working really well and support here based on Elliott wave rules, it just gives me a little bit more validation that some of the other support levels that I'm looking at should hold. So that's what I kind of look at there.
That's super interesting. Just before you go on, I'm very curious. Do you believe in fib time zones, for example? That's something I've been playing around a little bit recently, and I'm curious your thoughts on it.
Yeah. I mean, that's a little bit more probably fib analysis 301 level. It gets kind of like I use them for really in-depth cycle analysis and those kind of things. So it's a little bit more math involved. But I do like them. A lot of this kind of comes in. Where's that monthly? It doesn't show it really on here, but there are some Fibonacci time zones in here. I just didn't put them on here. I mean, this is just a sine wave. It's pretty interesting on the low to high here. If you take that sine wave, you get a low. This is just consolidating and then consolidating, but then you hit a low right at this point.
Right.
Comes down, comes back up, hits a high, hits a low, and then kind of consolidated, hits a low right at this, kind of comes up, hits that, and then the breakout was right at that point.
Yeah, that is.
And then you had the high, then you had the high here, and then the low here. So the next point is September of 21. But I think it's probably going to be consolidation. And then this one right here is your December, which hopefully will be a new high, but we'll see. But I don't have any fib time zones on here, but yes, I use them a lot. But it's a little bit more involved mathematically, because it's not like you could just go over here and just put on the time zones and you're like, like, oh, look at this. It's like the best thing. Yeah, that looks good. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna sell my house, that kind of thing. Right. So it takes a little bit more analysis to kind of use them, but yeah, I use them a lot.
Very interesting.
Yep. I wish I had something here for you, but I don't have it polished up and ready to go.
It's all good, man.
But that's where I'm at.
Okay.
A little bit more near-term trades are working pretty well. Got to buy, got to sell, got to buy back in, and we'll see where we're going. If my guys are probably buying here on this dip, which they probably shouldn't, but I'd probably wait for the shallow fib here at 37.3 to buy, as long as this bull zone holds. But if it doesn't, you're pretty much going to break even on this trade, but you already made profit on this one, so you're kind of in a good situation at the moment.
Would it be fair to say that you primarily use, it looks like, about 3 different indicators?
For this theory, yes. Really, all I'm using is the ADX with the directional index lines,
right?
And the RSI, and I use 13 instead of 14. I use it because 13 is a fib number.
Oh, okay.
And
makes sense.
And a lot of it has to do. Really, that's just the 2 indicators. I use some, I use some movement average, exponential movement averages, the 55, the 144, basically all your fib levels, 233, 610. I kind of use all those numbers to kind of validate some of the support and resistance levels and some crossovers.
Yeah.
But really, it's a simple thing. The toughest part is finding the right zones, because if you don't have the right zones, it doesn't work. So I kind of work with the guys in my Patreon to kind of teach them how to do that. But then I'll create charts for people to get the bear and bull zones, and then they can rock and roll with it from there. Once those are established, they're so really the main theory comes in setting those best fit lines.
Yeah.
And it just takes some analysis and some time. But if you take the time and go back and do some historical stuff, figuring out where I call the psychology changes, that's where I start my fibs. And the interesting thing is the theory I've come up with, and I haven't seen anybody else doing something like this.
I don't think I have either, man. This is
Yeah.
incredibly impressive. I
Yeah.
didn't know that you were doing it on this deep of a level. This is excellent stuff. But I just wanted to
Yeah.
highlight that because one of the things that, you know, I see a lot of people get into, especially when they're first kind of starting out, is they get into like indicator hell, where they have like, you know, 5, 10, 15 indicators on their charts, and they think they need to be looking at everything. Whereas realistically, it sounds like at least trading for myself, and it sounds like for you as well, you know, 3 indicators at most, and it looks like you're doing 3 different time frames. I mean, that's all that it has to be. You don't need to.
Yeah. Yeah. Simplistic is the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I also found not so much just being simplistic. It's also just using just traditional RSI, ADX, something that everybody can learn and just understand.
They tried it.
Yeah, so it's just basically traditional, easy stuff that you can really kind of use to your advantage, and just use it as a tool. You know, that's the main thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm simplistic when I look at different things. I won't go more than 3 different types of indicators at a time when I look at other things. But this is just my main. You know, I just call it subliminal thinking, because there's liminal space, where the liminal space is where emotions get the highest, and people don't know what the hell to do. They're like, oh my gosh, should I buy? Should I sell? Oh my gosh, I need to run. I need to get out of here. And that's really the point where the threshold happens, and you go from one to the other, and that's where that psychology changes, and that's what I'm trying to measure using the Fibonacci level. So it's not about price; it's about proportion. I don't care what the price is; it's the proportion that's happening, and people are creating those patterns with fear and greed, consciously and unconsciously. It's amazing the patterns you will find when you actually dig in and do some analysis.
Right on.
Which you've been doing for a long time. So
yeah. So I wanted to ask you, like, how long did it take you to kind of formulate this whole system? It seems like this probably took a lot of effort on your own part over a long period of time, I'd imagine.
Yeah, a long time. I would say probably 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
But the thing is, having a day job where I'm the head TA guy at our firm, I look at charts in everything. I mean, so just doing that and just staring at charts every day for 8 hours forever, you start to learn things, and I just trial and error and just finding different methods, and finally something started to click. So and I'm like, okay, this is and I back tested it, and I'm like, wow, this really works really well.
I'll ask the obvious question. I suspect I already know the answer, but I just want to ask for anyone else listening out there. Does the general guidelines for what you're using right here to trade Bitcoin, does that apply to the other assets that you played or traded?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right on.
Yeah, I'm a commodity guy. I've been in futures and options, and that's just been where I've been.
Yep.
You can use this for everything. I always find that the TA, especially this type of method, works really well in the FX markets. I think TA in general works really well in FX. On the lower, especially on the lower time frames, it probably works a little better.
Totally.
One thing I've found here is on the 4 hour and the daily for Bitcoin. When you start to get down into the hourly, my method doesn't work as well. I've been trying to find the nuances in the hourly, and I just can't. I can't hit it right. I can't find it. So I'm continuing to work with it to see if I can find where the nuances are and try to figure it out. But right now, the 4 hours is my main trading level. So it's not going to be anybody that wants to get in and out. It takes some patience. But it's a thing where if you follow it and go with it, it works well. You just got to be patient. Yeah. Because signals don't come every hour. You know what I mean? So
right on.
But you might have to wait. You might have to wait 2 or 3 days before a signal hits. and sometimes you're waiting 4 hours to even see what the next candle is before you can do anything. Those kind of things. And if you don't have patience, you're like, oh man, I want to do something, but you just got to wait it out.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of leads in perfectly to my next question. How often are you doing trades? Now, obviously it's going to be single dependent, but are you in trades like every day, or what does it kind of look like?
Yeah, I would say pretty much every day, because it depends on how many different things you're looking at. Because right now the only thing I'm not really an altcoin trader unless there's a really good.
You mean that you're looking at a bunch of different assets?
Yeah. Like gotcha. Right now I'm in.
So that's what keeps you busy.
Yeah, because the main thing is Bitcoin and Ethereum are probably the only two that I probably trade mostly when it comes to the crypto side.
Right.
But one thing I've been doing really well on is the S&P 500.
Oh yeah.
The SPY is working really well. ES
Mhm.
is the ticker on TradingView. I've
Mhm.
been doing that, and really those are the only positions I have on at the moment.
Very
But
interesting.
yeah, but I'm in a whole bunch of different things. Just because.
Here's something I have to ask, man, because first off, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be interested in this. First off, where can they actually learn from you? It sounds like you have a Patreon group. Where can they get that information?
Oh, if you go, I have a website, just FiboSwanny.com. You can
Yep.
come there. Uh, Down here, if you want to join the Patreon, that's where you can get
Mhm.
access to the charts and videos, and mainly the Telegram group, where we
Mhm.
discuss a lot of those things, and people kind of ask questions, learning the theory, and plus they also challenge it, which is kind of cool. The
Yeah.
community I have is really nice, where people are kind of kind of challenging. Hey, what are you doing here? What are you doing here?
Yeah.
And they're learning as they
Oh, it's pretty
go, and
cool.
that's
Yeah.
what I want.
Nice. Yeah. Some free
Because
thinkers. Exactly.
exactly, and that's what mainly what the group is. It's
Mhm.
not if it's a signal shop, don't join, because you're not going to be very happy.
They're mostly
Uh,
bullshit, from
yeah,
what I've seen.
yeah,
I'll go and
it's
say it.
yeah, and this is more just kind of wanting to learn,
Mhm.
just another tool to add to your strategy, to give you
Yeah.
some validation and some comfort to get in and out. Really, that's what it is.
Excellent.
Uh,
Excellent. Here's something that I think a lot of people would be interested in, and also myself as well. But what would you tell someone who's just trying to get into trading, like when they're first beginning? What would you tell them? Kind of like guide their path. What would you tell yourself when you were first starting?
yeah, that's a good question. Um, Really, when it comes to trading, it's one of the things is you just gotta it's experience. You just gotta
Hmm.
do it. Um,
Putting in the
some
hours.
Yeah, you got to put in the hours,
Mm.
and I don't know. I'm not a big fan of paper trading, but then again,
Ah,
some people
okay.
like that.
Yeah.
It's sort of like poker. It's hard to like play poker
Right.
without playing for money,
Ah,
because
so you're
you're
saying like the
so
emotions kind of get involved when
yeah,
something gets
you don't
hit.
really have the
Okay.
emotion
Okay.
unless you have
Right.
some in the game.
Hmm.
But if you're trying out a certain method that you're trying to set up a strategy,
Hmm.
paper trading and doing some back testing is what to do there. Um, I I actually I'm old school.
Yeah.
I like if you want to actually read a couple books on the traditional stuff.
Hmm.
I'm a Dow theory guy.
Okay.
The just I don't know. It's just kind of hard to like really, because everybody comes from different angles and those kind of things.
Yeah.
But I think just experience and just getting in and trying things, trial and error. I mean, you just got to put in the hours. And
Yeah.
some people are video guys. Sometimes they're book
Hmm.
readers. Um, but like I said earlier, psychology books are more uh, up my alley because
On that note, do you have any books that you recommend in particular that you really got a lot out of, a lot of value?
um, off the top of my head, I can't remember some of the names. You know what? Let me get those to you, and you can
Yeah, absolutely, man.
put them in a link or something.
Hell
I
yeah.
can't think off the top of it. It's early here in Kentucky. I can't remember.
Yeah. By the way, for anyone watching, this is like midday for myself in Finland. Swanee's over in Kentucky, so it's like the crack of dawn, 7 a.m. So
Yeah, no,
just so
I'll
you
get you
know.
those. I'll get you those book names. I just can't think of them off the top of my head.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. So what was like I feel like everyone who's kind of done this for a long time, and you've certainly been doing this longer than me, we all kind of go through like some sort of hurdle, some sort of like main sticking point when we first began that kind of like gets us, over that first hump where, a lot of the time you might have like some early success or something, but then you run into some obstacle, you get in your own way, you fuck yourself up, probably have some financial consequences with that. Did you have any like similar sticking points to that or something that you'd, point out?
Yeah, I mean, one thing is when I was trading cattle and grains, the owner of the company, the one thing that really helped me learn is he opened up a margin account for me.
Yeah.
Basically, just $1 million margin account. Just trade whatever the hell you want, as long as you got positive
Wow.
results. I don't give a damn.
Fair
So
enough.
that I was like, that's awesome. Um, so so I started to do that, and I learned really quickly about position limits. because I started to get a little crazy. And
can you define position limits for people? I think most people might not be familiar with that.
Yeah, like if I was trading like the S&P 500, you know, futures contract, you know, one contract, you know, is $500 a tick, right?
Right.
So if your, you know, position limit is, you might not want to put 20 of those on at once.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing.
You have too much risk both ways.
Yeah, I've kind of learned a percentage of you know, whatever trading value, like basically the amount of money that you're trading. You got $10,000. I don't put more than pretty much 1 or 2% per trade. But when I'm a young guy with $1 million margin account, that's not my money. It's really easy to it's really easy to go. It's like, screw it. I'm just gonna go. Yeah. I'm gonna go in and do 20 contracts instead of one. But you learn real quickly that the market will whip your ass quick. Yeah. And that's why risk management is a big deal. So along with the psychology books, I even recommend risk management books. Right. Really more than psychology books, because if you don't understand position limits and how much to put in trades, that stuff can eat you up pretty fast. And that's what I mean. Just it's really just putting in a percentage of your overall trading value, and just don't put too much in per trade.
Just out of curiosity, back to Bitcoin, do you you've traded all these different marks and everything. You've been around for a while, it sounds like. Do you believe in Bitcoin? Do you think it's gonna do all the things that I think some of the more romantic pieces of the community think it's gonna do? Do you like it, or you just see it as something to trade? How's your thought process with that? And actually, you see it maybe in like 10, 20 years as well.
Yeah, the thing that brought me to it is not so much more the trading side. Well, actually, it was a little bit, but yeah. What made me first look at it was just the ideological thinking of just anti-government.
Interesting. Okay.
So I looked at it as something that, well, when I say anti-government, it's more anti-bank. Okay. And to me, banks are pretty much government anyway. But
this is very true.
But that's the first thing that made me look at it, just because I'm kind of a anarchy type thinker, when it comes to ideology. And Bitcoin kind of fit that mold of thinking, oh, here's something I could actually peacefully get into and kind of rebel against the actual monetary system. That's the first thing that came to my head. And then when I started to look at it, I actually first looked at it back in like 14 and 15. Right. And I don't think there was enough volume in there to really get good TA signals. So I was kind of looking at it and I'm thinking, it's just not working. But then I went back and I started looking at it again, and I started applying the stuff that I look at, not just the fibs, but just other trading styles. Right. And I was like, okay, I think the volume's here, and this is working really well. Yeah. So I kind of dove in that way. So I first looked at it for ideological reasons, and then I jumped into it because I noticed that the stuff that I apply is working really well. But I like it for trading, but then again, I also like it for something that could be something used in the future for a store of value.
On that topic, I'd love for you to go deeper into that. Like, what does that mean to you? Like, I understand that it's you said anti-bank, but what do you mean by that? Like, using Bitcoin as your own bank? Is that what you mean? Or
yeah, exactly. I mean, one of my goals is to, I'm kind of weaning off the dollar and starting to try to get more and more into living my life in the Bitcoin world.
So you want more autonomous control of your life?
Correct.
That's a fair proposition as any.
Yeah, but that was one of the things that I do, mainly doing that. But my whole thing is once my fiat dollars are into this world, I trade for sats. I don't trade for dollars. So everything that I do, even when I do my budget with my wife, yes, where I actually have all my budgets in sats to know exactly.
Very interesting.
How much I have here, how much sats do I pay in my mortgage, those kind of things. So I'm trying to get that mindset into looking at it that way. Put it that way. Yeah.
This is a bit of a personal question, and if it's too much, just say fuck off, Krown. But I'm curious. so if you could just speak in like percentage wise, obviously not, real numbers, how much money are you comfortable keeping liquid in cash versus Bitcoin?
Um, right now, I'm about 30% PTC.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Okay.
and getting the percentage higher as we go.
Hmm.
Um, it's just it's a risk management thing.
Right. Right.
I'm a family, 2 kids.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
So I take that into consideration. I don't want to go out there and just go 100, go
YOLO.
100% in. But, yeah, exactly. But I'm actually 30% uh, net worth
Hmm.
in crypto.
So where do you
Hopefully 80% in the next 5 years. As we
that's just
kind of
gonna be from holding it mostly.
yeah, maybe.
That's one of the things that I noticed, man. Like, I was pretty happy with my percentages like a year and a half ago, when Bitcoin was trading well below 10,000 bucks. I'm like, okay, this is
Yeah,
very reasonable. And then
yeah.
it just became ridiculous. I'm like, I do not feel comfortable like this. But
Yep,
you
yep.
know
I
how
know
it
what
is,
you
man.
mean.
Yeah,
I know what you mean.
absolutely, absolutely. So on that topic, man, where do you see Bitcoin in like, 20, 30 years?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, I don't know if it's more along the lines of where. Are you saying it from a price perspective, or are you looking at it from?
I mean, you can talk about price, obviously, but like, where does it kind of fit within the world, in your opinion?
I think ultimately it could become a reserve currency. But
Really
I don't know. I
interesting.
just don't know how long that'll take. I don't know if it'll be
Hmm.
in my lifetime. Um,
That's what I think as well, man. It's like if something like that is truly going to happen, it's
it
probably
could
going
take
to take a
50 years.
while. Yeah.
Yeah, it could take a long time.
Mm.
But I think that's where it could ultimately go. But one
Hmm.
of the things that I like for the store of value for it right now is just it just makes so much more sense to me. If I have $50,000 sitting in a savings account doing
Hmm.
absolutely nothing, and that's over and above all my expenses, and that's my trading stuff or whatever.
Right.
The that $50,000 should be in Bitcoin or some other store of value going forward, because I think that's going to be the next, you know, the
I,
next
I
just store of
right.
value in the next
Yeah.
five, 10 years.
That's exactly how I see it. I mean, it makes total sense to me,
Yeah,
especially in this like more digitized informational age that we're kind of in now.
yeah,
Younger generations, man, they understand the digital world, and they're not going to look at, these shiny rocks as we would perhaps, in
yeah,
comparison to like
yeah.
Bitcoin, because they're just going to understand that better. I mean, kids get fucking cell phones like at 5 nowadays. It's insane. You know,
Yeah,
who
yeah,
knows
yeah.
what the hell
And
is that doing to
I'm
their
I'm
brain?
probably I'm I'm probably a little different on that, because I mean
Hmm.
I'm 51, so
Ah, okay.
um, I'm in that generation that there's not a lot of 50-year-olds that think this way. You know what I mean? I mean
Yeah.
there are, but a lot of the times, my friends and stuff, they're just like, yeah, what are you doing? It's magical
That was
internet
actually
money.
something I really wanted to touch on as well. Now, you've got actually a couple decades on me, but I'm curious. Do you find that people from your kind of former life in a more traditional sense, as a trader, being around the pits and everything, if they if they know about you in cryptocurrency land or anything, what do they kind of typically have to say? What is their usual response?
Um, they think I'm nuts. I mean
Yeah,
a lot of
sounds
a lot
about
of the
right.
traditional guys are just like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
I mean, look at the S&P, it's up. Why are you
Mm,
not in equities?
yeah.
Um, those kind of things. It's just like I just don't think they have the I don't know the word for it. Uh, they just don't trust it.
Yeah.
It's a trust factor, and, and
Right.
and I mean, if you look at currencies, that's really all currencies are, is trust.
Hmm.
And uh, unless that trust factor is there, they just don't. They might dabble in it, a little bit, but they're not looking at it in their budgets, and like I'm doing. They
Yeah.
think I'm nuts. They think I'm too risky, I guess you could say.
Well, it seems like it's working out anyways, man. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I've actually had a bit of a different experience. But I was also the guys that I was around were maybe like just a decade above me, and they kind of are coming around to it now. They're starting to ask a lot of questions now. That's for sure.
There's more
Um,
questions now than
mhm.
there were last year.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm
Absolutely.
starting to get a lot more questions from guys, that are around my age now, which is interesting because that could be a sign.
Yeah, I
That could,
think so too.
yeah,
I think so too. I mean, it's slowly kind of working its way, and people are getting a lot more comfortable with it now. Even my dad was hitting me up about it. It seems that it's been in the mainstream media enough now to where people like they identified as something not necessarily like a meme. It's now real. Which I think
yeah,
is
yeah.
good. But just out of curiosity, man, I do realize that we're maybe running out of a little bit of time here. But
Okay.
what are you focusing on the year to come?
Uh, what do you mean?
Well, just in the sense of what do you think Bitcoin's going to do, but also what are you kind of focusing on with that? Do you have any I don't know, do you have any plans with where you're going to go in this market and everything? And I'm just kind of
Yeah,
an
yeah,
open-ended question, really.
yeah, yeah. No, I was kind of pointing out a little bit ago. I'm really wanting um, this last signal to hit.
Yeah.
I mean, if we get those 3 daily settles above that 40, the 40.8 here, I'd really like to see this happen,
Hmm.
because I think for the rest of the year, um, I really like this 85 level.
Yeah.
But of course, we need to break this to get this wave pattern going up to the upside, or get this
Right.
next motive wave to the upside, get us out of this consolidation between 27 and 40, and get us into this other realm. Because once we get back
Hmm.
above this level, I think we're back into this 41 to 65 level. And that's something that we could watch over the next year. I mean, do we absolutely get to 85? I don't know. I mean,
Hmm.
nobody knows. But first of all, it's trading realms. You're in this. You come up, you're in this realm, and then you break up into
Yeah.
this new realm here. And right now we're in this realm, and I really want us to break back up into this, because I think once this gets going, this is where your additional buying interest will start to come in.
Yeah.
The people that are sitting on the sidelines just kind of waiting, I think that'll kind of help push this thing back to the upside. But like I
Yeah.
said, we're not out of the woods yet. A couple other things. Um, one of the things I've been watching is this midline on this thing. I've been watching here for a long ass time. Um, the uh, the break back down in here on this line right here. I'm waiting for three weekly settles below this line,
Yeah.
and I think then I think we're probably going to be, 26, maybe even down to 15K
Wow.
if that breaks. But it hasn't, and it held, which is really nice. So this next move to the upside, if you kind of follow the trend up to back to the midpoint, you're back up into that 60K range, and then if we get 3 weekly settles above this line again, we can start working our way back up. Because every time it kind of broke back above here, held here, it took off. Once it broke back down here, held here, it took off down on the downside. So this midpoint for me is a big deal.
Yeah.
But I really want to break up into this 42K and get us back into that 42 to 60K range. And I think that's the
Hmm.
range we could trade going into the next year. If we get a lot of additional buying interest, I think that 83K will come back into play. Um, another interesting thing that I saw, plus a lot of people probably seeing this, uh, when we had the high back here at 1163, and it went all the way down to 152
Yep.
bucks, and then it broke up this 160, the 161.8% level was very
Mm.
interesting. As it broke up, it actually happened even prior to this, but just looking at it the last couple of times, once it broke that 168 and came back down, it retested, and then we rallied.
Yeah.
And the same kind of thing here, 19,666 down to the 3,100. Once it got above the 161 here at 29.8,
That is
tested here,
super, super interesting.
tested here. So
I've
yeah,
I've
go ahead.
actually found something relatively similar with that. I don't know if you have logarithmic scale ticked on or not with your extensions there. But if you go into the index chart, there's actually another iteration, I think in like 2010 or 2011, where you actually find the same sort of interplay as well as what you're
Okay.
showing right here.
Yeah.
Just kind of to further support that argument. I mean, it's actually
Yeah.
rather
And the
rather strong.
timing of it's kind of interesting, because
Hmm.
if you take it from that point to when it started to rally, we're right there at the same timing. So it'll be
Ah,
interesting. It'll be interesting
wow.
if we start to break to the upside from this point, like it did at this point right here. I don't know. We'll see, but nothing. I would just, I wouldn't mortgage the house and buy off this. But it's just an interesting kind of look right here. But other than that, I'm pretty bullish for the rest of the year. And
Yeah.
of course, unless we start to, well, where's my weekly here? What if we make a new low below that June low? Because the June low was that timing that I really liked.
Yeah.
If we made a new low below that, then we're in for a pretty shitty time.
Yeah.
I mean, from the long side, you can make it from the short side. But one of the things that I do is I'm into capital preservation, so I don't really sell my Bitcoin. I buy puts to protect the downside. So if it starts to look like this is going to break down, I'll probably buy puts down at 15K or something weird shit like that.
Jesus.
But right now, I think the way this pattern's setting up, I really like the 42 to 60K range over the rest of this year.
Very interesting. I just got one more. Again, I know that time's a little bit tight now, but
No problem.
for it sounds like you trade Ethereum, or I believe you said that you trade Ethereum, right?
Yeah, I got Ethereum chart here.
Yeah. Well, first off, I'd be curious your theories about your ideas on maybe like the daily and up there, kind of more long term. But with its event coming up, just fundamentally speaking, or just speaking in generalities, do you have any natural proclivities towards some like Ethereum over Bitcoin during I don't know, maybe this period, the next 3-6 months?
I haven't really dove into that much lately.
Okay.
I have in the past. I haven't looked at it that closely. I'm trying to think if I have a chart on that real quick. I can't remember if I do or not. Let me check here.
Because it seems to me that like the general sort of thought in this market right now is that Ethereum's going to outpace Bitcoin. Ethereum's going to be the big thing, and you should really be weighted a little bit more towards Ethereum right now as its event kind of approaches. I don't know.
See, right now, based on my stuff, right now Ethereum's still in the bear zone versus the bull. So right now I'm a little bit more on the BTC side than Ethereum, based on my stuff. However, we did have the crossover here. Yeah. And we are above I don't have it on here, but we are above the previous threshold levels that I look at. But we have not broke out of this zone yet for me. So that's that last signal. Actually, that's the first signal I need, is this one, is to get us back up above this point. So right now, I would actually lean a little bit more toward the BTC side at this point in time.
Interesting.
Versus Ethereum. But given that it's right on this edge, it's pretty much a flat kind of thing. It's like I wouldn't really put too much on one side or the other just yet. It's kind of it's too close to kind of go all in one side or the other. But right now it's just touching some moving average resistance right here. I'd really like if this broke up into the bear zone or into the bull zone and got us going there, I would probably lean a little bit more toward being a little heavier on the Ethereum side than Bitcoin going forward.
Yeah, keep on looking on that one at like the monthly and quarterly, and it looks really good to me there, especially on the bi-monthly and quarterly. Okay. Unfortunately, those just move a lot slower, but yeah, man, very, very good stuff. So, Swanny, it's been an absolute pleasure, man. I want you to please tell people where they can find you. Just shill all of your socials and everything right now, because I think people are going to be really, really interested to go and check you out.
Yeah, sure. Please. Oh, yeah. First of all, thanks for having me on.
Dude, it's a pleasure, man. It's a pleasure. I'd love to do this again too.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in this space for 20 years, and I probably follow maybe a handful of people, and you're one of that handful. So
I appreciate that.
There's not too many people that I follow, but for your stuff, I mean, your jewel indicator is just top notch. Just stuff like that. So, but for me, out on Twitter, I go by FiboSwanny. Everybody calls me Swanny. Fibonacci's just been in my blood. So FiboSwanny, somebody called me that one time and it kind of stuck. So I'm FiboSwanny on Twitter. You can go to FiboSwanny.com is where my website is. And that's where you can get into the Patreon if you want to get into there. I just use the Patreon as the payment system. All the stuff on the Patreon, you'll get into the Telegram group, and that's where a lot of the discussions about the Fib theory and just Fibonacci, everything Fibonacci that you can think of is going to be talked about in there. We look at all the different stuff. I actually produce charts for people in the Patreon. You know, like I just did a rune chart before
yeah.
I got on, because somebody needed a rune chart. I mean, what the fuck is rune? But somebody wanted it, and somebody must be trading it. So you know, so FiboSwanny on Twitter, FiboSwanny.com. TradingView is FiboSwanny if you want to look at my charts on TradingView. I really don't do too much YouTube. I did something with Socrates for a while. He took a break. I was doing that show with him on a weekly basis. I'm not a real person to run a YouTube show, so I don't really have a YouTube channel. But those are the main spots. And then if you have any questions or comments, just DM me on Twitter, and I'll try to get to you as quickly as I can.
There you guys have it.
Because you got to remember, my day job is TA all day with an actual job, which I enjoy very much, and I don't ever want to get rid of that because I love what I do. But the crypto side is my moonlighting, and I'm here to help. So
we're all gonna die at a trading desk, sir. You know how it is.
Yeah. Don't tell people that. No, I'm kidding.
Oh my God. Well, there you have it, everyone. FiboSwanny, my good friend here. He is the master of the Fibonacci's. Definitely check him out. Please, again, FiboSwanny at Twitter is the main handle, and then his website as well. We're going to be signing off now. We'll be bringing him back, of course, at some point as well. And thank you for listening.
Thanks.